So, Michael, they're making another Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Oh, good. They haven't made one of those in a while.
I mean, I think this is number 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Margot Robbie is going to be in it, so that's great.
She can just basically, I'm sure they could do a thing about a ancient, sword. Obviously, they liked their swords, the pirates, that traps the souls of its victims.
Maybe they will lift an idea from the Suicide Squad, but I don't know. Just Suicide Squad. My apologies,
yes,
to James Gunn. But the thing is, I like Hollywood. Is it out of ideas? The fact that they're making a 6th Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Yeah, that is true.
Yes.
I just realized actually what Margot Robbie could say, and this would be a good reference. She could say to Jack Sparrow, "Love your perfume. What is that? The stench of alcohol?" And then he could beat her up. Just like he repeatedly subjected Amber Heard to months of unprovoked abuse.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke. And this week we are celebrating the 25-year anniversary of the Paul Verhoeven movie Starship Troopers. So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Starship Troopers?
Starship Troopers were meant
robots
to
in
fly.
disguise.
Interestingly, though, obviously what Verhoeven is parodying in this movie turned out to be what the Transformers movies unironically became. I don't know why you brought Transformers up there. There's this scene where Optimus Prime, that's the hero, right? The hero robot. Optimus Prime. Is it in Transformers 3 when a bad robot's begging him for mercy?
And then he just
it's like, please, no, Optimus, no, I'm sorry. And then he just stabs in and there's heroic music in the background. Yeah.
That is so funny. Yeah, I forgot about that. He's like, no. Begging for his life.
Yeah.
He was afraid.
He's afraid, yeah.
Yay.
Go on, kill him, Optimus, sever his head. Yay. Right. Starship Troopers is a 1997 American military science fiction action film. Doesn't contain the word satire there. Directed by Paul Verhoeven and written by Edward Neumeyer, based on Robert A. Heinlein's 1959 novel of the same name. The movie stars Casper Van Dien, Dina Meyer, Denise Richards. A lot of D's in this cast.
Wow.
Jake Busey. There we go. That's yeah. Thank God. Neil Patrick Harris. Patrick Muldoon, Michael Ironside, and Seth Gillum. The movie was released on November the 7th, 1997. Of course, this isn't a 25-year anniversary. We're not there just yet. We've still got a few months to go. But, of course, this is Verhoeven May. We did Basic Instinct last week. And that was the 30-year anniversary. Now we're doing Starship Troopers, the 25-year anniversary this week. What would you say for Verhoeven May, Michael? Verhoeven?
It's not so good, is it? There's no way of really making it work, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. Cage Pull definitely worked a lot better. Anyway,
yes.
Michael, what is the budget for Starship Troopers?
Well, this film, obviously, I would imagine this film had a pretty big budget, which I'm mostly basing on. Dare I give a little bit of a spoiler and say the quality of the effects. I feel they got to commit themselves. And it's kind of a weird thing. I know you always say it's about the 90s. There are so many weird films from the 90s, and it's very difficult for me to imagine, a studio being oh, let's put loads of money into, this film feels like a studio shouldn't have been oh, let's put loads of money into it. But I guess I have to assume they did. But, come on. I wouldn't think it's 100 million. 100 million is too much, surely. They wouldn't have put that much into it. But it feels like it must have been tens of millions, obviously. So I guess I'm going to say 60 million?
Oh, Michael, you're almost under, because it was 100 million.
Oh,
I love how
wow.
They wouldn't have put in 100 million. Yeah, and every time they actually do put in that amount of money.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not.
I'm very frugal.
Your guess wasn't less than half of the actual budget, so you don't get a mark against it. 100 to 105 million.
Didn't we establish an additional rule, which I don't think applies here? It's if I'm it's something if I'm not quite half off, but I'm 50 million off.
Yeah, it was shall we implement that rule from now on?
Yeah, but it wouldn't apply here anyway.
Yeah, it wouldn't apply here. Okay, we are implementing that rule from now on. Here we go. But anyway, can you tell me how much this made at the box office?
I'm gonna give it a modest bomb, No, not a bomb. Sorry, a modest success. I'm going to say it made like 180 million.
Okay, I thought you were going to go like more than double the budget, which would be probably a success.
Yeah.
Which would qualify as a modest success. You didn't do that, which is good.
Well, yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, because the box office, you guessed 180 million. The box office was only 120 million.
Oh no.
Yeah, so quite. I imagine they took a loss on this. Again, it's crazy how well this movie has been received afterwards, which we'll get into, which was like the 35th highest grossing movie in 1997, and we won't be doing it for its 25-year anniversary, but we are. So, Michael, tell me why that is the case and why you liked Starship Troopers.
I don't know that I've explicitly said I liked it, but I do. Yeah, this film is like the very simple answer is it's entertaining. It's just it is just fun, good old fun. But there's also, of course, the fact that it's humorous, it's funny with like some of what it has to say, which is also a good thing. Yeah, like I would say this film is a good film, and we will probably talk more about that as this goes on. I
think it is the film itself isn't a good film. I think what those critics said at the time makes sense, but then you realise, oh no, the film itself isn't meant to be good, and that's part of it. That's part of your.
It's like a meta thing.
Yes, it is very meta. Part of your viewing experience is understanding that the film isn't meant to be good, and kind of laughing with the film with Verhoeven at least, with what is going on screen. So yes, I liked it very much. But anyway, Michael, how many nitpicks do you have?
Believe it or not, I have 0 nitpicks.
Yeah, same, because you can't.
Yeah, which I guess it makes sense because of what the film is kind of supposed to be.
Yeah, every little mistake that I picked up on, maybe not even mistake, like.
Yeah, that was one thing I thought was like I was thinking, oh, is that a mistake? And I was like, no, actually, I don't think it is.
Yeah, every little thing, it's like, oh wait, I think I know there's a reason why he did that. So yeah, there's nothing really to complain about on the nitpick front. So Michael, let's get into the plot of this movie, Starship Troopers. Then, so set in the future, of course, the story follows a young soldier named Johnny Rico and his exploits in the mobile infantry. Rico's military career progresses from recruit to non-commissioned officer, and finally to officer against the backdrop of an interstellar war between mankind and arachnoid species known as the Bugs.
Just get him, Rico.
Yeah, go get him, Rico. Yeah. So obviously, Michael, this is a satire. Somewhat. Like, the thing is, Verhoeven is meant to be mocking this fascist society, and this. Yeah. But the thing is, he doesn't do that within the movie. What this movie is basically is how a fascist society would make a big popular like popcorn movie to show to a younger demographic. It doesn't really contain satire. That's the thing.
I kind of agree with you there. Like the satire, like it's weird. It's almost like, well, it's meta satire.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the term for it, really.
Yeah, the movie itself is satire. The fact that it exists at all.
Yeah.
And it plays things straight. I'd say like 95% of the time. There's a few moments like when I think Neil Patrick Harris basically is a Nazi, where it's like more that where it's not playing it straight, where it is winking to the audience. But like 95% of the time it plays it straight. It is a fascist war movie, and it's bad. And that is what Verhoeven is satirizing. These kind of movies. And
he's getting to a really important point, which I think people don't really get at, which is that the worst thing about the Nazis is they would have made bad movies. Like that's like everyone always talks about. Yeah, like I mean, it's always one of those things. It always like we need to watch Birth of a Nation because is it actually? They say it's a good movie, and maybe that's actually something we can say to the credit of the American far right.
Yeah, but basically, fascist art often is really bad because they don't understand things, and therefore they don't understand art, and therefore they don't really make art, which is what this movie is. Yeah, again, he's making at the same time he's making fun of the actual book as well, which this movie is based on, which we'll get into. But yeah, it's like a high school drama, but in a fascist state. I think even when they get out of the high school drama stuff, you can see when remember when Johnny Rico fights the guy who's trying to steal his girl, and it's like, and they're fighting like they would in a high school cafeteria.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great as well. Yeah. And what is fucking Dizzy, great name, say to Johnny Rico, it's like fleet and mobile infantry don't mix.
Yeah.
And it's
I do
like
remember that. Yeah.
fucking high school, like, you know, cliques. That's what they're called.
Yes.
Yeah, like kind of like that, and it's just like, oh, it's so dumb and so stupid, but that's the overall point. But yeah, anything else to say on this fact that this movie exists, Michael, and what it actually
basic
is?
idea. No, yeah, I will say I do like a good meta narrative. You know, we all like how Zack Snyder's 300 is actually just Greek propaganda being told as to hype people up before a war, until you then watch the rest of Zack Snyder's films and then think maybe that's not true and it's just a happy coincidence. But like, I guess that's the thing, yeah. Like sometimes you construct these meta narratives and you just assume, but you can't tell. With this, you obviously can tell, and I guess, you know, it's worth mentioning now that Paul Verhoeven was born in Holland, or like lived in Holland during the Nazi occupation, so pretty likely that he would have had some beefs with fascism.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, this is
and like an actual concept of what it would have been like to actually like grow up in a fascist society.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
imagine the Nazis were really spreading their propaganda around.
Yeah, he would have had like first-hand experience, and he would have taken those experiences and again tried to put them into this movie, and be like, right, what if the Nazis created a movie? Like, what would it look like, or a fascist society? And the reason why he decided to do this with this movie is, of course, the movie is based on a novel, and we'll talk about that novel in a bit, and why, yes, it is ripe for satirizing. But first, Michael, we'll start off with a newsreel to kick off the movie, and I just wonder, because like we said, there's a lot of people who at the time didn't understand what this movie was going for, but right off the bat, it tries to make it pretty obvious, you know.
Yeah.
I'm doing my part, which has now become a meme bit.
Yes, yeah.
And then you have a blonde-haired child soldier.
Yes.
I think Verhoeven chose the child to be blonde for a specific reason, but yeah.
Because he thinks that blonde people are superior.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, I'm doing my part as well, and everyone laughing in a ridiculously awkward way. Yes, and it is just an absurd advert for joining the military. Sign up because humans are invading this bug planet. You know, since they are sending a meteorite to hit Earth, and immediately it seems like this is not being serious. Like, wouldn't you say that's the case?
Yeah, like it does seem very on the nose, which makes it surprising that people didn't get the message.
Yeah, I know, that's why I think it's like right up from the beginning, that first scene, it's like pretty like, oh, this is not to be taken seriously, and maybe you don't understand right away it's satire. But it's clearly, you know, like one of the newsreels in particular. We talk about like this movie plays it straight 95% of the time, and for those 5% of the times it's winking. The newsreels are when it winks, you know.
Yes,
that's what happens here. So we get to the high school, Michael, the high school, and we have what this movie is. We understand what this movie is. It's like a teen drama or a high school drama movie, but in a fascist state. And yeah, this is what one of these movies would be if it was made by fascists. Because, you know, they're ignoring their teacher, you know, fucking Carmen and Johnny Rico, you know, that they're flirting. But of course they do eventually sign up to join the army, you know. They do eventually inhabit the Federation's ideals. And again, you know, you can start the movie off like this with the young characters, you know, like, because, you know, they go on a character arc, basically. And, you know, these young teenagers, you know, ignoring the teacher and flirting is getting the young audience to relate to these characters, right? Because that's what they do.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it feels like it's like very authentic, like the actual behavior of the characters.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they are just like us. Like if you are a teenager watching this in the society, and the fascist state wanted to inject you with this propaganda, they would start the movie off like this, because if like Johnny Rico and fucking Carmen were like very into the class and answering all the questions and being good little fascists, then, you know, the teenagers wouldn't relate. They're like, well, that's not really.
It's the
like
problem child. You have to, you know, it's the children who are growing up to be useless eaters that you need to target. So that you
I'm just talking about the average children.
Yeah.
Like these bogs are average children who, you know, they don't really care so much. Like Johnny Rico says, I don't know if I believe that. I don't know. I'm just. And the point is of the movie to get the people who would watch in this society to become Johnny Rico, what Johnny Rico is by the end of the movie, because they'll start off like Johnny
that's
Rico.
it. Yeah, you have to relate to him so that you can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about relatability. So yeah, and eventually they get on the quote unquote right path. But yeah, what the teacher is saying, of course, is important though, because yeah, it's this is why if you, it's great to, because you know, if you're watching the movie for the first time, you're not really paying attention to, I guess, what the teacher is saying. You focus on what Carmen and Johnny Rico's doing. But yeah, it is fascist propaganda what he's saying, and it's great. Like, he's got one arm, obviously.
Yes.
Like, everyone in the society he's served is just fucking fucked in some way or another.
Yeah, they're all like deformed.
Yeah, exactly. And he's giving a lecture on, you know, the failure of democracy. How, he says, how the social scientists brought our world to the brink of chaos, and how the veterans took control and imposed the stability that has lasted for generations since. It's basically like reading like an editorial from the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Yeah, no more woke teachers talking about the environment or whatever in this society, eh, Michael?
No, exactly. Yeah, like finally.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, like if you were a Daily Mail reader, would you look at this teacher in this movie and be like, yeah, that's what the teacher should be like. They should be like this.
I would love to show somebody like that this film just to see what they say.
Yeah. That's how
it's nice to see a kid doing his part.
Yeah, there is a obviously a difference between being a citizen and a civilian. We learn this from the teacher. The Federation, of course, is a fascist government, and therefore, if you're an ordinary person, you don't vote. Indeed, you are a second-class citizen, because you're not a citizen, you're just a civilian. If you are part of this war machine and therefore hold those values, you know, of being in this war machine, you can vote. And of course, you know, if you sign up, if you don't sign up to be in this war machine, then, you know, you probably aren't a fascist and are probably like anti-fascist, because you know, those people will always exist. But you don't get to vote, so you're basically insignificant as well. So the teacher also, you know, says when you vote, you're exercising, you know, political authority.
Because he says like violence is the only form of political authority that matters.
Yeah, and that's their way, I guess, of justifying voting in their head. It has to be thought of as violence. You know?
Yes,
that's why we allow voting, because it's violence. So, and we like violence, so that's okay. We can vote in our society. Anyway, so fucking Dizzy, I called her the backup girl in this, but she said, my mother says violence doesn't solve anything. And what does the teacher say?
He says, I wonder what the fathers of Hiroshima would say about that.
Yeah, but naked force has resolved more issues throughout history than any other factor. But you're right, before that he said, well, what Hiroshima would say about that. And then Carmen just very, like, I don't know, like arrogantly.
Yeah, she says it like she's like all smug about it. Like, those idiots died.
They died.
Way to stay alive, nerds.
Annihilated in a nuclear holocaust. Just a fantastic line delivery from her. I don't know if she was in on the joke or Denise Richards, or it was probably not. But yeah, great stuff from Verhoeven to get her to do a delivery like that. And obviously you have this situation where there's this federation. That's what it's called. This government is called, which is the same as in Star Trek. So they have the United Federation of Planets.
Yes.
And of course, if you've ever seen Star Trek, which you haven't, Michael.
No, I haven't seen it much, except for the faithful J.J. Abrams versions.
Yes, so Star Trek, I have watched a ton of the Next Generation. It's very much centered around diplomacy and understanding between different planets and species and cooperation. That's its central goal, I guess. Yes, and of course, this is just the complete opposite. So I have to think Verhoeven is referencing Star Trek with. The Star Trek government is called the Federation, and this is called the United Citizens Federation or whatever. It's called the United Federation of Planets in Star Trek. So two words are very similar. So they call it the Academy as well, which is what they call it in Star Trek. You know, when you go to get
I do know that, the Academy.
Yeah, and he seems to have modelled this futuristic society on a question with like, what if Star Trek was fascist? Like, take some of the stuff from Star Trek and you turn it fascist. Yeah. Anyway, so I want to touch on this topic, Michael, because of course we talked about what this movie is basically portraying this futuristic society as a fascist society, like a fascist version of Star Trek or whatever. And, you know, it's mocking, you know, this society, and it's mocking the films it would produce, and it's mocking fascism in general, and also it's mocking the fucking book.
What? Are you telling me the original book was written by an unironic fascist?
Well, let's have a look at this. So the original Starship Troopers is a classic. It was released in December 1959, and I say it's a classic because, you know, it's a book that, you know, kids, or I guess teenagers grew up with.
I've heard
read.
people being into the book.
So it was written. Guess when it was written, Michael.
Well,
No. Sorry. Guess why this book was written. So the guy who wrote it, Robert Heinlein.
Yes.
He wrote it for a specific reason in 1959. Something angered him that was going on in the world, and he chose to write it.
Was it like quite specific to 59?
Yeah. So you think of what was going on in the 1950s in the Cold War.
Yeah, I mean, like, so obviously there was the Korean War.
No,
there was Vietnam.
1959, Michael. This is quite time after the Korean War.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I was gonna say like something to do with like a more domestic thing, like.
What was the USR and the USA doing during that time?
They were building up weapons.
Yeah. Yes.
Did nuclear weapons? Did
Yes.
did the Soviets drop something special or like just in general?
Something the United States did.
Oh, they drop something? Did they like come up with a big new fancy nuke?
What?
Like a big nuke.
Remember what I said, Michael? He wrote this in anger.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh. Did the United States like disarm or something, like, or try to disarm? Like, I mean, obviously, I know they didn't disarm completely, but like, did they pass a law about disarming or something?
Well, you're close. So he wrote this in a few weeks in reaction to the United States suspending nuclear tests. So they were suspending their nuclear tests. You know those big nukes that they set off in the Pacific, around, and I think specifically the Pacific. And obviously they were like, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore because obviously it's damaging to the environment, the people who lived on those islands and all that. So good move, right? And you want to simmer down the nuclear tension, especially considering what happened a few years later with the Cuban Missile Crisis. And this guy got so pissed about that. Yeah. They're suspending nuclear testing. Oh, that is it. I'm going to write a book about how war is good and necessary. That's literally his origin story for this book, which is crazy. So I'll read a bit about the book. It's set in it's ruled by a human interstellar government dominated by a military elite. Interesting. And it's called the Terran Federation. So the movie follows Johnny Rico through his military service. Rico progresses. And of course, there is still a war between humans and the bugs. Intersped with the primary plot are classroom scenes in which Rico and others discuss philosophical and moral issues, including aspects of suffrage, civic virtue, juvenile delinquency, and war.
Well, I've heard the book. It's one of those like books that like crazy political people always write, where like there are massive just like sections which are just like unhinged political rants, and like apparently like there's hardly any actual action in the book. It's just like massive monologues where characters just say the author's opinion, which Ayn Rand also did a lot apparently.
Yes, so it says these discussions have been described as expounding Heinlein's own political views. So yeah, it's this like fascist, although he wouldn't say fascist, teacher teaching Johnny Rico that yes, war is necessary and the juveniles are too delinquent, and yes, the government being dominated by a military elite is the good thing. Starship Troopers has been identified with a tradition of militarism in US science fiction. Yes, it's very pro-military, and people who are very pro-military are often very pro-fascist. I mean, there's not really any crossover between like if you're not a military person and a fascist.
Yeah. There are very few pacifist fascists.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, and draws parallels between the conflict between the humans and the bugs and the Cold War. So. Again, what do humans do in the Starship Troopers? They kill the bugs. Well, we got to kill the fucking commies.
Yeah. Well, what I heard is that specifically, like, and it kind of makes sense. Like, they talk about like, I mean, the bugs are basically like a brainless monolith, and apparently that's like supposed to be a specific like criticism of what communism does. Like and it kind of makes sense. Like, I mean, in terms like you can see the connection from like an anti-communist like point of view where it's like, oh, they're just like they're the mindless drones and everyone's like forced into a particular role in society and they're all in like service of the singular thing. But yeah,
which is ironic, of course.
Yeah, it is funny.
These fucking they can't see their own hypocrisy. This is what he wants. Just instead of a like a communist society where everyone is equal.
Yeah,
you have the same characteristics, but just a hierarchy instead.
Well, that's kind of like, I was actually thinking recently about like how the main difference between communism and fascism, or like especially like kind of Stalinist style communism, is like they both want people to be better for society, but communism is like the kind of idealistic goal that everybody can be lifted up, so everybody can have a role for society, and from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. Whereas fascism is more like, no, the better people need to be elevated and stay on top, and the terrible people need to either be kept down and not have any kind of power or anything like that, or be exterminated. Which is obviously a pretty big difference.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, it's a pretty
so like
big
the
difference.
main issue with the bugs, I guess, is that they presumably actually try to use their weaker members, whereas in the glorious bug fascist society, all the weak larvae would just be killed.
Yeah. So, a coming-of-age novel, Starship Troopers, critiques US society of the 1950s, arguing that a lack of discipline has led to a moral decline. Imagine thinking that in the 1950s.
Wow, yeah.
Not even the 1960s, in the fucking 1950s thinking that, and advocates corporal and capital punishment.
I like to imagine like he saw one kid say like, I don't know, like golly gee, and then he just like went out, I've never heard such horrendous language. This is the downfall of civilization.
I know, right? It also became enormously controversial because of the political views it seemed to support. Reviewers were strongly critical of the book's intentional glorification of the military, an aspect described as propaganda and likened to recruitment. Yes, no, that's literally probably what it was, yes. The novel's militarism and the fact that the government service, most often military service, was a prerequisite to the right to vote in the novel's fictional society led to it being frequently described as fascist. Well, I mean, that sounds like fascist. That sounds like what it is. So yeah, it is. Like,
yeah.
Yes. So others disagree, arguing that Heinlein was only exploring the idea of limiting the right to vote to a certain group of people. Yeah. I'm just exploring of ideas of curtailing democracy and only giving it to a certain group of people.
That's all. Hitler was just exploring the idea of killing all the Jews.
Yeah, just exploring these ideas. Yeah, maybe we can do it based on military service or, I don't know, race or gender.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. I'm not sure. And Heinlein's depiction of gender has been questioned, while reviewers have said that the terms used to describe the aliens were akin to racial epithets. Wow. What a shock, eh? What a shock, Michael, eh?
Yeah, wow. I can't believe that. Like, he just doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would do that, you know?
Yeah, just not the kind of guy. So yeah, it does seem like a pretty fascist book. And yeah, certainly if you consider it like he's like, no, we shouldn't stop nuclear testing. We should keep on testing nukes. We should, we should be pro-war. People should be recruited to join the military. All of this kind of stuff. And we should go to war properly with the USSR probably. But then, of course, a couple of years later, what happened, Michael, with the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Well, the Cubans had weapons, and everyone realized that maybe they could all die.
Well, yeah, the world was close to nuclear war, and thankfully it didn't happen. But again, that was the increasing militarism, increasing like conflict, almost decimated and killed everyone. Again, just a stupid book, a stupid ideology, and yeah, it's basically we started talking about this book as with the question: was Verhoeven right to mock this book and satirize this book and the worldview it espouses? And yes, absolutely, he was completely right to do that. Because again, I don't know why he got involved in this project, but certainly I think he probably would have heard of Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
And he probably, oh yes, I can really mock this book. I can really tear this book to shreds.
You almost think, I know you like to talk about like there being like wanting to see movies about movies. I could almost imagine that there might be an entertaining premise for like an actual story about like him trying to be able to direct this film to basically just take the piss out of this guy. I don't think it would actually work out. It probably wouldn't actually be that interesting. But that idea of like him negotiating to be in charge of adapting this book, which he obviously would have recognized as actually pretty sus.
Yes. According to the 2009 Science Fiction Handbook, it had the effect of giving Heinlein a reputation as a fanatical, warmongering fascist. Yeah, and I think that reputation is deserved.
Yes.
Yes. He stated that some guy, scholar Jeffrey Cass, stated that the novel made an analogy between its military conflict and those of the US after World War II, and it justified US imperialism in the name of fighting another form of imperialism. Yes. I mean, that's what the bad guys do in movies. Oh, we had to do this because otherwise they would do. It's just like, again, they can't see they're the bad guys. But yeah, by the way, obviously, so authors and commentators have stated that the manner in which the beings, the bugs, were portrayed has racial aspects, arguing that the bugs and the skinnies, that's what they were nicknamed, carry racial overtones. And John Brunner compared them to calling Koreans gooks. So yeah, no surprise there. Let's go back to the actual movie, because of course they're dissecting this bug in a science class.
Yes.
And again, the teacher, who looks like a crazy German scientist, that's the vibe I get.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, she might be blind as well, All the people who fought in these wars have like some issue with them. That might be the case with her. And she says, humans aren't as good as this random, I think it's this beetle, this beetle that they're dissecting in science class. And she says, beetles reproduce in vast numbers. They have no ego. They have no fear. the beetle doesn't know about death, and so is the perfect selfless member of society.
Yeah.
She eloquently says the fascist position so well. You've got to give your body up for the state. That is what this society wants out of humans, basically.
No, yeah. I liked that scene, and I think that kind of, definitely. And that's kind of like, it actually reminds me of, do you remember that time when in Jesus Camp where the crazy woman's like talking about how like Muslim extremists are willing to like blow themselves up? And she's saying like, I want to see that kind of extremism from Christians. And it's kind of like one of those situations where even though obviously the two sides hate each other, like the crazy people on both sides kind of admire each other. And I think that's like an example of that here, where it's like she obviously would hate the bugs, but she admires.
Well, it's a different. This is a beetle.
Oh yeah. Oh sorry. Yeah. But it's like a giant beetle though.
Yeah.
So I was a bit confused because I kind of I thought like I guess my assumption was that it would in some way be related. Like that's kind of like, and I was assuming that was why they were dissecting it, because they could get like they were learning something. But obviously it's not the same thing. So yeah, it's clearly not the same bug that they're fighting on the thingy. See, I'm not sure actually.
Yeah. I didn't think
maybe
it was.
Maybe all the nukes mean that they have giant irradiated beetles.
Yes, but again, you got this crazy German scientist lady saying how fascism is good and great, and clearly she's been injured somewhat and she's mental.
Yes.
But so we have this dumb high school drama bullshit with the indoor football game. Again, they've upped the violence of American football.
Yes.
And just the hilarious last play with Rico like flipping over 3 people, like doing a backwards flip. Yes. Those little touches that they are so nice as well. But Rico he wants to rebel against his rich liberal parents, Michael.
Yeah,
they don't want him to serve. Yeah, they don't want him to serve, but this is viewed, as this exciting thing for young people to sign up for, the army and all that. And that's what would happen in a propaganda movie. And of course, he and his girlfriend, they go to do it tomorrow, and Rico just wants to do it because of his girlfriend, the day after they graduate.
What a cuck.
I know, right? But all the characters, like we said, they're kind of ignoring, what the teacher is saying, but they all, get on the right path in the end. They all sign up for the military to serve. And, the great moment, of course, when the guy recruiting them says, "The infantry made me the man I am today."
Yes, and then he's missing, like, his legs.
Yes. The thing is, I don't really like that shot so much, because there's, again...
It's too obvious?
Yeah, it's too obvious. So Rico notices his arms and legs missing.
Yeah.
And it should be, like, a little detail that's thrown in.
Yeah, it could be more subtle.
The camera zooms in on his legs. The camera shouldn't zoom in on his legs, and Rico, like, you see him, another shot of him looking down at his legs. Rico, when the guy hands him the piece of paper, should just be smiling instead of, like, looking concerned.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Again, it's that would be, they make it too obvious, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
And again, Rico shouldn't. If this is a satire, Rico shouldn't react like that. He shouldn't. He should not care about the fact that that this guy's got his legs blown off. But all of them sign up to serve, and yes, like we said, Michael, they're dumb high school kids concerned with dumb high school stuff. But in the end, they all make the right choice to sign up. Like I said, a fascist movie that tries to be relatable. That would be the case. These are normal kids who are like, we all got to sign up and join this war machine. And of course, they have to have fucking Johnny Rico rebel against his parents who don't want him to join. Just like in other relatable high school movies. This is, like if a fascist watched, I don't know, an 80s high school movie, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh yeah, he's, what is a staple, a cliche of these teen high school dramas?
Rebellion.
The kids rebelling against the parents. So the parents are rich, so they don't want that life for Johnny. So they don't want him to serve, but he's going to do it anyway, because that's a staple of these movies. And it might be the same for you kids. Maybe your parents don't want you to sign up and serve the Federation. If for the hypothetical kids watching this in a fascist society, watching this movie.
Yeah.
But you know what? Do it anyway. It's cool to rebel against the parents who don't want you to. So don't want you to sign up. So I like that as well. That's a good touch. But again, like Verhoeven, again, adopting these cliches, he's making his movie worse, Michael, isn't he?
Yes.
To make better art, and again, like if we talk about the fact that it's like more of a high school drama movie, certainly at the beginning, Goebbels, to use who Goebbels is, obviously.
Yes.
He's the Nazi war propaganda.
Yeah, propaganda guy.
Yeah, not even war, just propaganda guy. Yeah, Goebbels didn't like putting his ideology up front.
Yeah.
And so this movie is what fascist propaganda would be. You've got a light high school movie, kind of light entertainment, high school drama, and then the fascist values are absorbed throughout the movie, but they're not shoved in your face, particularly not at the beginning. And yeah, basically, this is what this this kind of movie would be released if the Nazis won the Second World War.
Yes,
this would be the kind of movies again, because like that's you think maybe it's not in your face fascist, but that's what, like I said, that's what Goebbels liked. He thought that was the most effective. So yeah. So it makes sense that Verhoeven would follow that blueprint while trying to create this fascist movie.
Yeah.
How many times have I said the word fascist?
Yeah, you said it a lot, actually. That's definitely true. Yeah, like people don't realize you're subtly implanting. This is part of their plan to, subliminal. But yeah, I kind of agree with that. Like that's the thing. Like this film, I will say, like that's the thing. The reason why this film works in general is that like it's exactly how fascist propaganda would work, which is like subtlety. Like it's not saying that fascism is, it's not explicitly saying fascism is great. It's showing a fascist world and then showing fascism achieving results which are communicated to the audience to be good.
Yeah. And again, the characters who you're meant to relate to throughout it, they're not like fucking full blown, oh yeah, I believe everything that they say, because again, that's not relatable. Like most people in society aren't like that. They're kind of average, like Johnny Rucco is at the start. But again, you get into it, and by the end of the movie, he's fully integrated into this war machine. Just like the kids watching this movie, well, hopefully, in this society would be after watching this movie. But yeah, so the casting of the characters, Michael. Yes. I want to talk about that. So you are cast in this movie basically for being vapid and dumb and having no humanity, right? That's what Verhoeven was looking for.
Yeah.
All we want is your looks. And again, just like how a fascist movie would cast someone, we just care about them looking good up on the screen. We don't care about, anything behind what they actually appear. And yeah, he loves playing pranks on his actors, does Verhoeven, like he did with, obviously,
Sharon Stone.
Showgirls. Well, yeah, that wasn't really a prank. So.
No, yeah.
I mean, just like in general, like having them being part of a movie and having them give an earnest performance and not realizing that's the joke. But yeah, he gets them to have bad performances intentionally, and yeah, makes the movie worse, and that's the point. It's the same with Denise Richards. Neil Patrick Harris is a bit smarter, but obviously Casper Van Diem he's just like an action movie toy. That's what he seems. And of course he's not in on the joke as well. And they get these like really like, I think this movie was compared to 90210, but like science fiction version.
Yeah.
And so he deliberately got these like 90210 actors, because it's like, yeah, this was what the actors would be in this fascist movie. Again, like people that look like Casper Van Diem. And he looks a bit Aryan as well, as does Gary Busey.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, yeah, definitely,
yeah.
Wait, no, sorry. Gary Busey's the older guy.
I know. I realized.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. I agree with you. Like that's
Jake Busey.
Yes, he definitely did go for Basically, he cast for a vapid high school drama, but it's kind of it does end up being an insult, and I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't direct the actors to kind of behave as if it was a satire. He basically directed the actors to behave sincerely.
Yeah,
which works again, obviously, because if it were actually a film made by a fascist society, the actors probably would be acting sincerely.
Yeah, and they wouldn't be acting well as well.
Yes.
They would be acting badly. But yeah, so let's get into the training stuff, Michael. So typical stuff with the drill sergeant, over the top bullshit.
Yeah.
Which, as again, I like how again, this is kind of bad movie making. Like the cool scene where he throws a knife and spikes Jake Busey's hand. And then, like a few scenes later, Jake Busey, is playing snooker.
Yes.
And I think Verhoeven deliberately shows him playing snooker, so you'd be like, oh, that's a nitpick, but that's the point. It's a bad movie. Like, there's no consequences. He doesn't have a bandage around his arm or whatever. Again, it's interesting, to hear that you need to have a license to have a baby.
Yes.
And this is just casually thrown in. Same with the politician. Basically, anything you do requires service. You can't go to Harvard either, and basically, just you need to be assimilated within the system first. And I like how just everyone accepts it while they're in the shower. This conversation, just like, oh yeah, that's just the way things are.
Yeah,
and nobody questions it or says it's bullshit, of course, because that's we don't want people questioning the system. We just want and casual reinforcement of the fact that this is just the way it is. That is good for this fascist society to put in this movie, wouldn't you say?
No, I definitely agree. And I like that kind of aspect of the world building where it is actually showing you subtly what this society is like, and the fascism is very kind of background. I was actually thinking about A film that's very similar to this is the Dredd film, like the Judge Dredd film that came out in the early 2010s. In that, like, in that film, obviously, I guess like Judge Dredd is set in a fascist society, and Judge Dredd goes a slightly different direction with it, where it's kind of like you can tell that the fascism is bad, but it almost like completely avoids commenting on it in like a way that almost ends up kind of interesting, like because obviously Judge Dredd is the good guy, but he's literally like, there's a bit where a guy's just homeless and he's like, vagrancy, 12 weeks in the ISO cube and stuff like that. It's like, oh good, it's a society where you get thrown in like what's it called, solitary confinement for being homeless. Like that's but like that's the thing, like it's kind of like the film almost is barely even like making a commentary on it. So it's kind of like, I was actually thinking about the fact that like it's weird that like for a second I was thinking like it's kind of weird that this film and Judge Dredd almost like don't exist in the same universe, because I was like, they're both films where like you have heroic characters or characters who are presented as heroic, but like they live in a fucked up fascist society. And then I kind of realized like, I guess the reason why it doesn't really work, because this film is like the surface level stuff is kind of good, but like the underlying stuff is like where you find out it's evil. So like obviously the world seems fine, like it's not as if this is a world filled with poverty or violence or anything like that, which obviously is contrast to Judge Dredd.
But you wouldn't show that if you
well that's it, so it's kind of like but then obviously you have the subtle stuff, like it's kind of like, and I think that works better, where it's almost like, and I think that's kind of why they couldn't really do too much like world building of like establishing the society in detail, because I suspect that the whole point is that you just hear about it. It's all kind of implied, and it's like smoke and mirrors, and I think that really works. I mean, there's no real world building in this. No, exactly,
like they're in. There's like one shot of Buenos Aires. And that's it.
And I like obviously there's some historical stuff which like kind of like to establish like.
But again, it's very. It's no detail at all is given. But obviously a couple of other great bits from the from like when they're getting trained up. The big dumb farmer guy dies, and then Rico calls for a medic, which is
yes, that is funny, and you just see like his brain open.
Yeah, and then he gets lashed. He gets whipped by a black guy as well, which again is it's got kind of a nice role reversal there. From how it used to be.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, yes. Carmen Ibanez, Mike, let's talk about her.
Yes.
She's obviously trained to be a pilot, and there's this great scene where she narrowly avoids an asteroid. You remember this scene?
Yeah.
But then we have the main deck of the ship rip off and be destroyed, or, the bit that sticks out. I don't know if it's the main deck or what is it called, but it's probably a pretty important piece of the ship. It hits the asteroid and, like, killing, like, dozens of people, probably. And then at the end of the scene, like the captain smiles at her saying, well, it wasn't luck, it was good piloting.
I found that really funny.
Carmen gives that like stupid like dumb high school girl smile, like, oh, thank you, and like there's happy music playing after just like dozens of lives were lost.
I found that really funny, because you could like, I was thinking about the fact like people definitely died when like that, like it looked like it was almost like the bridge or whatever is like what
is that what they call it? I'm not sure. I thought the bridge was actually where they fucking do the actual piloting.
I'm not sure, but either way, it definitely looked like a place where like there would definitely be people and then just like got swept away.
And just the smile, hey, we did it. Just that's like proving she's coming on. She's a good pilot, but loads of people died, and no tears for them at all. So there's also the line about her dad earlier saying, what did she say? Oh, he thinks he's never going to see me again. And just. I just think it's just absurd to put Denise Richards in this movie.
Yes.
Like, she looks like a kid. Like when her and Johnny Rico meet up again, and Johnny Rico says, "You look good in a uniform," and I was just like, she just looks ridiculous in that uniform. Like, it just doesn't work at all. But of course, that's what makes the casting decision so great. But you wanted to talk about the gender roles.
So I want to say, like, I find it interesting because like obviously it's funny in two senses, but it's interesting that like this film, which you could say is like an action film that's like, I would imagine lots of people have watched this film just because they're like, oh, it's a dumb action film about like bugs, like people fighting bugs. And it's kind of interesting within that context that like actually the film is like surprisingly gender equal. Like this film, like obviously that there is no, like, you couldn't really say that any of the female characters like stereotypes or anything like that. It's like the women can do just as well as the men. And I think, yeah, I found that kind of interesting, just because, like,
Well, Michael, I will say the original book, that is the case. I think all the females are pilots.
yeah, I think
So
I had heard
it's
that. Yeah, it
actually
was more divided in the original book.
it is segregated based on gender. That is
Yes.
not the case for this movie.
Yeah, yeah. So they did a really, and like, I think it's kind of interesting because, like, obviously you could, you know, I guess like it's kind of funny because it's just like I don't think the film's really trying to say anything with like the gender equality aspect. I think it's almost just like it's just there happens to be the case that in this particular fascist society that Paul Verhoeven's made, that they're not really any kind of like gender standards.
I think the gender isn't segregated because he wants the character Dizzy,
Yes.
so he can do that dumb high school like love square as it would be in this movie. Because he wants to get that cliche in this movie. He's like, well, how do we do that then if the genders are segregated unless we make it gay, which we you know he's not going to do.
Yeah. Although on the subject of gay, I have to mention this now. I was considering putting this as a lip pick, but I didn't want people to think I was gay. When that guy gets his fat, thick, juicy arse out on the camera. Do you remember that scene where like he's like cooling his, and then like this guy just takes out this absolute, and I don't think this is too strong of a word, badonkadonk of a booty.
Yeah, I mean you don't sound gay at all.
Thank you.
So that's
good.
Yeah, yeah. So Buenos Aires is then destroyed, Michael.
Yes.
And why Buenos Aires?
See that's an interesting thing because I want to know because I assume that there is a reason.
Well, the movie is set in Buenos Aires. Sorry, the book is set in Buenos Aires.
Yes.
But again, it's not. In this movie, it's basically America. When I was a kid, the thing I couldn't work out was that, the fact that this is set in Buenos Aires doesn't really make sense because they're fucking American. It's literally America, but Buenos Aires, it's just like, what the fuck is
I remember thinking that was
bullshit?
interesting too when I watched it.
Yeah, but then, of course, I get why, because, you know, it looks like, it's basically LA or any other, like, tropical American city. But, yeah, the American military have conquered basically the entire world. I'm guessing, because it's a very like this society isn't like it's not a Buenos Aires Argentinian society like that. What sport do they play, Michael?
American football, not soccer.
Not football, American football. Like that's the thing. It's like, and of course they speak with American accents. Some of course still have American Spanish names like Carmen Ibanez is a Spanish name. But yeah, basically America has just basically consumed the world. You know, they've colonized the world basically.
And I think it's kind of implied it's like, well, obviously there are still like Hispanic people around, so I guess it's like a very much kind of like a cultural colonization.
Yes, and the federation thing is set in Geneva.
Yes.
But I think that's just because Geneva, you know, the Geneva Convention of Human Rights. Well, let's flip that and let's have Geneva be the head of this fucking fascist society, and instead that'd be funny, wouldn't it?
Yes.
And yeah, I think that's why they did that and why it's not based in America. Otherwise, that would be the case. But yeah, basically yes, it's the America has conquered the world, and again, of course, in the original novel. You know, well, fucking where was the author from? He's from America.
Yes.
He wanted America to get more involved in the Cold War. He approved American militarism. So Paul Verhoeven's like, right, okay, fine then. I'm going to make it so the whole world has been captured by this American militarist ideology or sect, I guess. And so, yeah, in Buenos Aires, it's basically like 90210, which again, like that's what he's doing. Buenos Aires is destroyed again. He's mocking the author.
Yes.
Rich. Yeah, he's mocking the author by having everyone with American accents and then playing American football. He's doing that again. So it's a great way to turn the setting of Buenos Aires into again mocking this guy once more. But yeah, so Buenos Aires is demolished by an asteroid, and it's at this point a question as to whether the bugs have the technology to fling asteroids towards it. That's the question. And yeah, the newsreel, by the way, is hilarious with the numbers going up and the fire in the background. Again, great stuff from Verhoeven. And he says the bugs use the plasma to knock the asteroid out of orbit. No details on that, but it seems shaky considering they're just bugs on a shitty planet. Like, how would they understand where Earth is? Like, because it's on the other side of the fucking galaxy. And also, how would they be able to hit it directly at Buenos Aires? So here's the thing: this fascist society could have had a Gulf of Tonkin incident that allowed them to start the war against the bugs, right?
Yeah. I mean, the whole diplomacy around the war is a bit interesting, and yeah, I think so you're saying like a false flag.
Yeah, but then there's also this line later in the movie where a news reporter says the bugs were provoked by their intrusion by humans into their natural habitat. So humans started this conflict. So that line maybe means Verhoeven isn't saying a Tonkin occurred, like the bugs actually did fire back.
Yeah. I get you. Yeah. I mean, it is interesting. Yeah, the whole like.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, role of the bugs because the bugs are obviously underdeveloped, which again within the meta narrative thing would make sense. You wouldn't expect them to really be developed in terms of what they've got going on. But yeah, obviously it does leave some questions about what exactly they were doing. I mean, so I guess like one of the points does seem to be that the bugs are intelligent in some way, and you could maybe imagine. Therefore, I mean, okay, so here's like one take I think you could imagine, and it's something I was kind of thinking about. Like the bugs could be seen as representing like a diversity of different forms of success. And what I mean by that is like you can be successful in different ways and there's different ways of achieving goals. And the bugs obviously have like a very different strategy and attitude and culture and society to the Earth, to the humans, but they are kind of successful. And obviously that's interesting when you consider the fact that fascism, I think it's very fair to say, and this actually follows on from the Buenos Aires point, is not very tolerant of diversity. And I think like fascists, the idea to a fascist of like being successful in a different way is like very hard for a fascist to wrap their head around. They'd be like, well, no, there's just success. You just get success by everybody being in conformity and doing the right thing. And therefore, I think within that context, maybe it makes sense to say that the bugs did launch the asteroids and like are actually capable of some kinds of advanced warfare, because that would kind of prove that they are somewhat successful.
Yeah, the fact that they hit Buenos Aires dead on.
Yeah.
From like so far away makes me think, that's not really them, but maybe it is. I don't know. Again, it doesn't really matter too much.
Maybe you're racist against the bugs, and you think they can't do it.
Yeah, but humanity is definitely responsible for this war because, of course, they set up the colonies within. I think they said Mormons did it.
Yeah, radical Mormons. They said like a radical Mormon separatists.
Yeah, they try to colonize the planet, and the bugs were like, "No, fuck off."
Yeah,
and that's the American spirit right there, colonizing places which don't want to be colonized, and we got to start a war now. After they, and again, like it's just like these bugs are on the other side of the galaxy. Like you really didn't need to start a war with them.
Yes.
Anyway, so I want to talk about Johnny Rico's character now, Michael. Johnny Rico's character. Rico's reaction to his home city being destroyed is great.
Yes.
No pain or sorrow since those feelings are gay.
Yes.
Right back up. Signs right back up to the military. And, he's happy when the major lets him back in. He's got a smile on his face. Seriously, he spends no time mourning his parents at all.
No.
I mean, they were anti-war anyway. There's no point in mourning them, especially. And, who cares? We've got some bugs to kill, that's the case. That's the thing. His character arc, obviously, he goes from like, I don't know, kind of not really caring about what happens to to society, not caring about the values that this society holds, and he then becomes a full-on like fascist at the end. But in a normal movie, Rico would realize throughout the movie that he's been manipulated and this is a sick society, and he would reject it somehow. But he just wants to continue the violence in this movie. His character arc is to go from, like I said, a person who's confused about citizenship, then becoming a brain-dead killing machine. That's his character arc.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny because so recently, for entirely unrelated reasons, I was watching, one of those things that people like to do where they rewrite the Star Wars prequels to try and make them better. And I was thinking about how, like, the real issue you have is it's just quite difficult to sell Anakin, turning to the dark side. And I actually was thinking when I was watching this film, you know what? This film is the best Star Wars prequel if you just imagine, like, admittedly it doesn't exactly work because obviously Rico is changed by the society he exists in rather than being instrumental. But like the thing is, like, it's actually like a very competent character arc of like you can completely believe him turning from just some naive kid who doesn't really care about the world around him and just like goes along with what's said to being somebody who actually sincerely believes in like the militaristic fascist message. And like it's well done and it's like believable. I
mean, he just gets involved. Well, the thing is, he's just
does
ordered.
His part.
He's just ordered to do everything, isn't he? He's ordered to. Well, he's not really ordered. He goes into the military because of his girlfriend Carmen. And then, like, he's and he's just ordered by obviously his superiors, and then he's just ordered by Ironside to do everything.
And then he eventually like starts. Oh, sorry, not Ironside. Is it Ironside? He eventually starts copying the other guy.
Michael Ironside is the actor.
Oh, okay, got you. So that makes sense. Yeah, okay, because he's called like the Roughnecks, the
Ratcheck.
Yeah. And he's like
that's what he's called.
Basically copying him, like when he obviously gets his new recruits in. So
he literally becomes Michael Ironside at the end of the movie. Yeah. He just becomes him, and again, he doesn't really do anything of his own volition. But that's the perfect character arc for this movie, because that's what you're meant to do in this society. You're meant to just like, again, he joins the military for the quote unquote wrong reasons, but he quickly. He's the best there. He becomes squad leader, and therefore, he basically, then assumes these values or picks up these values, and then becomes the ultimate brain dead killing machine. And he's ordered to like have sex by Michael Ironside as well, which is great, which we'll talk about in a bit. But it's his character arc is really great for what this movie is trying to do. It's a great character arc. Yes. Yeah. But anyway, so we get some more newsreels, Michael. Again, these are the points where the movie is winking at you the most. In Buenos Aires, what does the newsreel says? We have sorrow, but there's no sorrow, and then anger. Yes, the only good bug is a dead bug.
And then there's the kids like stamping on the cockroaches.
Yes. Again, but the point is the newsreel spends no time on the sorrow. It goes straight to violence.
That is true, yeah.
Yes. And in Geneva, the marshal is stood in front of an eagle and dressed in grey.
Yes.
And then we get back to Neil Patrick Harris, and the Nazi comparisons obviously get more obvious. And finally, the newsreel footage said federal scientists are looking at new ways to kill the bugs. And Neil Patrick Harris in his black boots, just kills a bug in prison. Now the bug is just like casually just he's not doing anything, and he just straight up murders him in prison, which is great. But again, the newsreel's an obvious clue that this is a satire. And like, how can you miss the children stamping on the bugs?
Yes.
And like you mentioned, and then the teacher laughing manically at them and clapping as well. How can you miss that? Yeah, that was great, wasn't it?
No, yeah, it was really, really entertaining, and it really felt like actually I was thinking about, it's kind of weird because this was obviously a thing done by America, but have you ever seen the things they did in America during World War II? It was like little newsreels, you can find them on YouTube. They're called like "Know Your Enemy," and it's like "Know Your Enemy Japan," "Know Your Enemy Germany," and it's like and it basically just like has this like guy kind of just explaining like the Japanese and why the Japanese have done this thing with kind of like these very simplistic like ideas of like just the nature of the Japanese nation. It kind of feels like reminiscent of that. Like it's like newsreader like, don't worry, our trusty men will go out and defeat these nasty bugs. But I also like what you said about how it doesn't spend any time like actually dealing with the tragedy of it. It's just immediately like revenge.
Yes, and that's the case with the news reporter, when he says the bugs were provoked by intrusion by humans into their natural habitat. So, basically humans started this conflict. And what does Rico say when he hears that?
He says, I'm from Buenos Aires.
And I say what?
Kill them all.
Kill them all. Again, no nuance given, just one mode that our hero agrees with, like kill them all, and again, maybe a bit of nuance injected by this news reporter guy. But no, immediately we're straight back to kill them all. And, the tattoos that they get, again, so obvious that say death on them.
Yes.
Like, just another great touch. Again, how can you not think this is a satire? I don't know. Again, those little bits and pieces seem like it's obvious. But we go to the bug planet now. And they blow up a bunch of the big bugs, which is a cool shot. A lot of cool shots in this movie.
Yes.
Then the bug approaches the humans, but of course, if you notice, the bugs don't actually attack the humans first. And there's a bit of a standoff between the humans and the bugs. And they're like, oh, what do we do here? What do we do here? And then Rico just, like, again, removes any doubt and just says, kill them all, kill them all.
Yes.
Just a perfect moment from our fascist hero once again. And, of course, then the news reporter, Michael, he gets captured and killed.
Yes.
That was his mistake for trying to interject some nuance into things.
No, exactly. Yeah, I did like that.
And that's what you get. Oh, you wanted to say, actually, all the bugs, is their natural habitat? No, you get sliced up. That's what happens. That shows him. These bugs are our enemy. Make no mistake about it. And, it goes back to kind of what the teacher said at the start. We say, like, violence is the only answer.
Yes.
because if you let your guard down, you'll get snapped in half. And I love how the camera keeps filming him as well.
Yeah, like they just I like that aspect too. Just stay on the violence.
Yeah, and then you get some more newsreel stuff with the guy saying, "Frankly, I found the idea of a bug that thinks offensive."
Yes,
which I enjoyed that too. But so an invasion force then, of course, is being deployed to Clendathu. And the operation severely underestimates the Arachnids and is a total disaster.
Yes.
Wow. Fascists underestimating their enemies? What a surprise, eh?
Yeah, after this they try to invade Clendathu in the winter.
Yes. So Rico is severely wounded and mistakenly reportedly killed in action. And yeah, I think, again, the main characters, that's what I saw in this movie. Like, the main characters never die. Well, obviously they never die. But they just, like you see the shot, like he's got something through his leg, and then like the bug is about to kill him.
Jumps on him. And
then how did he get rescued? How did he not survive that bug, which was about to kill him?
Yeah.
None of that is explained, because this is about he's okay, he's our hero. It's all right, don't worry, he's fine. But yeah, like again, this movie is insistent of, not showing the consequences of war for our main characters.
Yeah.
So the teens watching aren't put off from joining the military. And what I mean by our main character, essentially it is Rico and also fucking Carmen, which we'll get to in a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, don't worry, you'll come back to life. It's all good. Like Rico, he's the main guy. We're focusing on him, and he survived. So that can be your fate too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, Rico, he's just a killing machine. Really, he almost died. And he just like, no, I'm going straight back out there. Again, no like questioning this war, questioning what he's doing, whether he was lucky to come away with his life. No, what's that, PTSD, Michael?
Yeah.
None of that, yeah.
Or survivor's guilt.
Yeah, no survivor's guilt either. I'm back. I'm ready to go out there, right back out there and kill those bugs. And even, Carmen, she's obviously one of the other two main characters. She gets hit by a plasma in her ship. Remember that, Michael?
Yes.
And it looks like it's going to burn up like the bridge or the room where she's in, and like there's a massive fireball. And then the next scene that she's in, it's great. She just has like a scratch on her forehead.
Yeah.
And again, that's something that you'd nitpick, but in a movie. But of course, that's the point. This is a bad movie, and the point is, oh yeah, don't worry. Are these characters? Oh yeah, they're fine. We don't need to worry about explaining how this fireball, which looked cool, how it hasn't affected our main characters more than just a scratch on the forehead.
I mean, because that's the thing, like on the one hand I was thinking like obviously one of the things that was almost annoying me a bit at the first battle was like it was really hard to tell who was dying, and the only reason that annoyed me at first is because I was thinking like, are important characters dying? And obviously if important characters were dying, you would want to...
Honestly, I didn't find that problem. I found it easy to determine which character died.
I thought it was too dark.
You had the Hispanic guy die, then you have the girl die. Yeah, maybe, I don't know, you can't just see properly.
Yeah, that's probably me. But yeah, basically, it's all humans look the same to me. But yeah, basically, the thing is, I was just going to say that, like, obviously, the girl who died, she has that line where she goes, "They whacked us, Johnny." Whatever. Yes.
That's a great line.
But yeah, the one thing you would often say to the credit of action films is when they're kind of like, as it were, brave enough to like kill off main characters, and it's usually something you credit a film with. And obviously, there's lots of films who go, oh yeah, they it's not just like everyone doesn't just feel invincible, and like usually people feeling invincible feels annoying. But I think in this film, like you say, there's an explanation for why, if this is a film which we're to understand as basically functioning as fascist propaganda, they wouldn't show the consequences of it. So it works.
Yeah, they don't. I guess. Yeah, they don't want to show the consequences for the main characters. Yes, exactly. So after recovering, he, Ace, and Dizzy are reassigned to the Roughnecks, an elite unit commanded by Lieutenant John Razchek or Rajak, Rico's former high school teacher. Of course, the teacher's a veterans. It doesn't really make that much sense to have this character back, but it does in like the stupid fascist movie. Like he was a teacher. Why is he a lieutenant again? Like, don't they have someone else? And maybe they're just losing so many people, and that's Berghoven kind of implicitly saying that, like, so many of them are dying that they need to get back the old people who've retired. He obviously he murders these bugs, and the bugs again, they don't attack the humans first. Once again, like the humans just firebomb these bugs as a crucial point to make. But anyway, so Rico kills this bug, and the teacher says, when that big bug, and he jams a grenade in it, which is a cool scene. Yes, and the teacher says, like, how did you do that? And Rico says, I was captain of the football team, so I was on the team. And it was like, yeah, those are the skills of being a football player translate to the killing bugs on Clendathu. You know, it's just so dumb. Just, of course, you know, hey, you play football, you'll be able to do that. And I guess that's a message to a lot of kids who would watch this fascist movie who, you know, play sports in general. Who are like, so you'll be really good if you play sports. Let's move on to how this movie treats sex, Michael, because this is an interesting point. So, do you remember when they're doing that, you know, high school stuff and you know, they're dancing on the night of graduation?
Yes,
and Carmen says, "My dad isn't home tonight." No indication they actually had sex, by the way. There's no indication at all. And, you know, there is this, I guess, expectation in fascist societies that marriage must come first, you know, before you have sex, basically. Like, that is, you know, it's like tradition and all that.
Yeah, you don't want to be a degenerate.
Yeah, exactly. Non-degenerate stuff. But they do shower naked together.
Yes, that is really
boys
interesting.
And girls. And I think it's a case of, like, again, all the individuality in this society has gone away.
Yes.
So it's just one body, one in this fascist state. So it doesn't really matter that the girls and boys are together, and you know they're too distracted by war and violence and serving the state to basically care that they're showering next to like people of the opposite.
Yeah. Like you can't serve the state by banging some hottie in the shower.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no need for separate shower. We all serve the state. There's no need for any of that. And of course, you know. Johnny gets to have sex with Dizzy or whatever.
Yeah.
Only after his lieutenant gives him permission.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yes. His lieutenant orders him basically to have sex. That's the thing. He doesn't even show any interest in Dizzy before his lieutenant says to him, "Oh, don't miss out on a good thing."
Yeah.
And then he has sex with her. Yeah, it's a reward after battling and killing, I guess. Get that great line from Ironside, which was, "They sucked his brains out."
They sucked his brains out.
Yeah, a great delivery from Ironside. This movie has a lot of great deliveries, like line deliveries, doesn't it?
No, yeah, this movie is like very quotable, which is a good thing. You're like, you know, it's one of those things you like to see in a movie where you can just like remember so many lines. Obviously, a lot of them come from the newsreels, but yeah, there's lots of good action action lines which are quotable too. And yeah, it's good.
Yeah, the black guy from The Wire says, "You kill bugs good, Rico," as well before, which I liked.
Yes.
Another great line. And yeah, again, the guy from The Wire, there's this moment where he looks at a bug in the eye, remember? And instead of having here, I guess, a human moment, he decides to just shoot him even more.
Yes.
Like when he sees the eye, yes. And yeah, Rico, instead of questioning everything, you know, Dizzy dies. That's a crucial thing. Dizzy dies. So Rico, instead of questioning everything, you know, especially, you know, since his unit got fucked, you know, his unit was sent in there specifically to see whether the bugs were laying a trap. And they were. And he just doubles down on his beliefs, even though he's lost Dizzy, this girl, of course, he had sex with and was at least friends with. And yeah, he just doesn't rebel against the system, even when that happened to him, you know. But then, of course, we get Neil Patrick Harris walking in with a literally Nazi uniform. Like, this is, again, just throughout the movie, he appears more and more Nazi-like. And, you know, he tells Rico that someone has to be sacrificed. And, yeah, Rico just doesn't react with any anger. You know, that's what they're born for, to die for the state. And our hero, Rico, gets that. He gets that.
Yes.
So, yeah, he may be a bit angry, but he lets it go. I have to say, the design of the bugs are great.
Yes.
I don't know if you feel that way.
Yeah, no, they are good. And like, I mean, obviously they're also really kind of like the CGI holds up with them too, which I guess comes from the fact they look quite alien. But yeah, no, I like the way they look.
No, the CGI literally does hold up.
Yeah.
It holds up so well. It really does.
Yeah, they really went for it.
No, yeah, they really did, and it's great. It really is great. Like the fucking heads are flying off, you know, like people getting beheaded, like by the bugs. It's great. Like it genuinely. That's the thing. This movie, obviously, we've been through what it actually is, but the actual like action within the movie is great, and that's something that the fascists who made this hypothetical movie would actually. That's what they would make.
Yeah, well done them.
Or what they would focus on. They would make sure like the action is great to keep the audience's attention. So after returning to the surface, they find that former Sergeant Zim, who had requested a demotion to private, has captured the brain book. You know, the ultimate soldier, Sergeant Zim, never wants to leave the front line. And the ultimate propaganda move, you know, to have this private capture the book. You know, you can make a difference too, basically. I think, Neil Patrick Harris has a line about none of our fancy technology, our fancy guns or whatever. It was just a private that did it. And of course, we don't see the private actually doing it either, which is great. Yeah, but yeah, that is the propaganda move. It's like, yeah, you can make a difference too if you sign up for this army. So yeah, it's that's a pretty crucial propaganda element. And of course, Carl then tells Rico and Carmen that the humans will soon be victorious. Now they can study the brain bug, and of course, Carl mentally scans the bug and reveals that it is afraid.
Yes, yay!
A classic moment with the cheers in the background.
Makes me so happy.
It's afraid. Yay! And everybody's so happy.
Yes.
Oh my god. What a moment, Michael. Describe to me how good that moment is and why it's so good.
Well, it makes me so happy that they're so they're happy, so I'm happy. But I mean, I suppose, yeah, obviously let's actually be serious. The actual reason it's good is because it's showing like that in that moment you would think that maybe they'd get a sense of like understanding that these are actual intelligent creatures with emotion, and that they're scared and that's sad, and it should be like an actual thing that would maybe provoke sympathy. But of course, instead they view the fact that they can make this animal feel fear as an indication of victory.
Yes.
And yeah, so rather than viewing it as something they could like as a basis for being able to draw peace or something, they're just like, oh no, this means we can be victorious.
Yeah, no, like none of them step back at all and like, oh, we've made it afraid, we've made it scared. Oh, well, maybe that's not something to cheer. That's like, oh wow, we've actually. You think about what they've done. They've come into their planet. They've killed a bunch of stuff, and now or killed a bunch of these bugs, and now they've got this brain bug, and like the brain bug's just afraid. It doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah.
But no. Yay! Again, it's just such an absurd ending, and it's so good. It's just like the perfect ending to this movie. Well done, Verhoeven.
Yeah, it really is the cherry on top, that ending.
It is a cherry on top of an ending. Whoever came up with that line, "It's afraid," and everyone cheers. Yeah, it's crazy. It really is. But yes, obviously, at the end of the movie, the three friends from high school, all end up, together. And it's like a high school movie. They had their flings and their fun, but they made it back together again. And that's what you can do if you sign up for with your friends.
It's all over by Christmas.
Yes, just they forget all the horrors they have experienced. Think like Carmen, like this guy who died, or who was,
had his brain sucked out.
Yeah, brain sucked out. Like, she's just like, she looks back and she's sad for like one shot, and then she's absolutely fine. She doesn't mourn him at all again, which is great. But yeah, this again, like if you. Despite what happens to Xander and to like Dizzy, or such a dumb name, and like all of the others, like you'd be like, oh, maybe war's bad because this is what happens to your friends. But remember, Michael, all those blood and guts, they aren't yours. This movie is still very much pro-war because the presentation of warfare is inherently thrilling. And again, those three ended up together just like they did at the start. They end up at the end, and it's an adventure at the end of the day. And so I don't think the deaths of everyone, all the humans, would dissuade people from watching in this fascist society from joining up. The people would be fine with it, basically. That's what I wanted to say. But yeah, we end on a nice propaganda reel.
Yes, which also features the bug being horribly tortured after we found out it's afraid.
Yeah, so the war machine marches on and must always march on. Firstly, Carmen replaces her boss, and she is replaced by a younger version of her, who will some day replace her after she dies. So the violence never stops, Michael. Society depends on this enemy to exist. That is pretty crucial, and that is what is happening explicitly with that shot. We can keep reproducing these people to fill these positions, and yeah, we'll keep on marching forwards to find new aliens to kill. That is our society, and yeah, like I said before, the psychosexual, I guess, issues that fascism has, that Verhoeven explores here. So, like we said, Michael, the movie has the brain bug, and it looks kind of like a vagina, doesn't it?
It does look like a vagina.
Kind of, yeah. And in the end newsreel, there's the line that says, "Once we understand the brain bug, we will defeat it." Yes. As a phallic object goes into this vagina-shaped brain bug mouth, and of course, it's censored, isn't it? It's censored. So, like, oh, this is an intelligence. I guess, again, a female, I guess, because it's coded as that.
Yes.
Like, we will defeat it once we understand it. Again, like a very yeah. Again, Verhoeven is understanding, I think, very well, like how fascists view, like, I guess, sexuality or
Yes,
femininity. That's a hard word to say.
it is.
Yes. But with that, so did you like that?
No, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I think that works as like an
Yeah.
adaptation.
Yeah, and I like how they say that once we understand the brain bug, and they're literally just shoving stuff into it and poking it, which is, yeah, just take out the sexual, commentary. That's that's all that they're doing. And so, yeah, all the fascist things in the movie, Michael, the flag, remember the flag?
Yes.
Kind of Nazi-esque. And Verhoeven said, no, it's different colours, don't worry. Apparently.
Phew.
So, yeah. And yeah, bug, I guess the whole concept of the bugs, like that, see the fascists are crushing, of course. Fascist states comparing people they don't like to bugs isn't that uncommon. Like cockroaches, all of that shit.
Yes.
And yeah, I do love how the bugs are on the different side of the galaxy, so far away from humans, but they're still going to war over it. That's great. But yeah, I want to say, Michael, just to end this review, obviously people didn't get it, Michael.
Yes.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It makes it's funnier that people didn't get it, and I suppose actually one of the good things in a way. Well, it's a bit interesting because you could say it means that the film wasn't on the nose. Like the fact people didn't get it speaks to the film's subtlety.
Yes. Well, the thing is, I think it is quite obvious to get it while watching it. Certainly, as an adult, like as a kid, maybe not, but as an adult, or definitely you should understand what this movie is trying to go for. But yeah, again, like the fact that you can miss it, that means it's very good. That's very good satire. That's very good satire. But yeah. It is also good that people didn't get it, because the thing is, if people don't recognize this as a fascist war movie, then that means the society in which these critics live in, that these critics are used to these kind of movies, if you think about it. So therefore, how fascist is the society that they live in? Like, if they don't,
that's a good point.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, Roger Ebert didn't really get it, which is amazing, really. But
yeah.
You also realize how fascist a society is, or how fascist Hollywood is, but the fact that, this is just a dumb bug movie or whatever, and it's like, there's nice action set pieces, but it's too cheesy or whatever, and you don't really like sit back and like, oh my god, this is like again what Verhoeven's trying to do here. He's trying to recreate a fascist movie, and it's like, well, if you don't understand that, the only way you couldn't understand it is if there are too many similar movies to this. So yeah, it kind of shows how this, again, it works that people don't get it, because Verhoeven, I guess, was trying to show with this movie, like, this is the direction that things are going in, like in society, or in American society. And this was back in the 90s, and I think he's been proved right, because over the course of, obviously there was 9/11, we can't forget that, and the reaction to 9/11 kind of mirrors what happens in this movie quite a bit.
Yeah.
If this movie came out like 6 years later, like, people would get it, I think, a lot more. But
that's a good point.
Yeah. But yeah, society is just trending in that direction more and more. And again, if you release this movie today, I think it'd be a bit too, it'd be too obvious, Yeah. Because everyone would recognize it, because everyone is, I think, at least knowledgeable about the threat of fascism. It's much higher nowadays than it was back in the mid-90s. So yeah, but again, for Verhoeven, he was always concerned about that throughout his movie, his movie making. He's always been concerned about the rise of fascism. And it's unfortunate, but that is the case. So anyway, let's conclude now, Michael. You go first.
Yeah. So this film, it's good. Well, yeah, obviously, like I already said, in a way, it's like intentionally bad. But like the thing is, it's worth noting, even as like a dumb action film, like it's a good dumb action film, and that, like, as far as a dumb action film is concerned, it does what you want it to do, which is have lots of action, like have the characterization be tolerable, and then just when the action happens, I mean, like, there are so many like films that you think are just going to be like action packed crap, but then they don't even have that much action because like the people were too cheap to even bother making the film. Like, and I would imagine, I know there are Starship Troopers sequels, and I don't think they're anything like as well received, and not only would I imagine that the like social satire isn't there, but I also imagine that they're also way cheaper, and because of that, like, they just don't look as good. But yeah, so I just want to say that because the action is actually entertaining, and you can turn off your brain and watch this film. But yeah, as far as the satire is concerned, it's good. It's not on the nose at all, and it's almost like I say, it's very meta satire, because you have to realize that this is a film, like we've already said, that you would watch in a fascist society, and like the film is kind of selling you that message of fascism. And yeah, that makes it interesting, and I love a good meta-narrative. I also wanted to say, very briefly, that it occurs to me this film is like it's like the opposite to the Iliad. Obviously, in the Iliad, as we all know, a completely pointless misunderstanding leads to a war that kills millions of people, well, thousands of people, and Achilles, our hero, kills Hector and like mutilates his body, and he's really angry about it. And then, of course, Priam, Hector's dad, comes and is in a very vulnerable, unsafe position and begs Achilles to give Hector back to Priam so Priam can bury him. And Achilles looks at Priam and he sees that Priam is scared and vulnerable, and in that moment he decides to let Priam take Hector and bury him, and he finally finds peace and he's finally happy, and that's like what the whole story of the Iliad is about. And this film is like the opposite to that. Like, it's basically this film is like if Achilles just laughed at Priam and then just chopped his head off. And you know what? I think that's funny.
And that Iliad is, of course, a great story, right?
Yes.
And this being the opposite is obviously an awful story.
Yeah.
Which is great. But yeah, so again, this is a special movie, you know? Like, it feels weird to... Like, this movie is a bad movie, but it's intentionally bad. And for good... And those intentions make sense. Those intentions are built on good motivations, to mock fascists, basically. So yeah, this is a meta movie. Maybe the most meta movie you've ever seen. I'm not sure. But this is, again, a movie. This is what a movie would look like if it was made by like the Nazis. That's a great concept and a great idea, and especially if it's built off a work, the original book, which was definitely like very very fascist book by the sounds of things. So yeah, it's just so clever as well. The fact that Verhoeven had this idea, really there is really nothing like this movie. It is very unique. And that's appreciated so much by me. I love these kind of movies.
I just realized I didn't rate this film.
What are you going to give it?
I think I'm going to give it a low 8.
I'm going to give it a 9.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to give it a 9. A movie that is built like this, again, just to have the audacity to do something like this, create this movie. Well done, Verhoeven, man. Well done. Like, you're never going to see anything like this ever again.
No, yeah, that is true. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm not sure if a low 8. I definitely. Well, yeah. I don't think I'd go quite as high as a 9.
It's fine if you give it an.
I'm just sincerely doubting myself, but no, yeah. I think a low 8.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. But yeah, again, I have so much respect for this movie, for Verhoeven. Again, why he's one of my favorite directors, that he would go out and do something like this. Yeah, a real credit to filmmaking is Paul Verhoeven. But anyway, what we got next week, Mike?
Next week we have a similar schlocky action film, but for different reasons, different intent. Top Gun.
Yeah,
and of course that is to celebrate Top Gun Maverick.
Yes, and there is a reason again why we did Starship Troopers followed by Top Gun.
Yes, that makes sense. Yes, because they're both gay.
They are both very gay. Anyway, join us next week for Top Gun, the unironic Starship Troopers. This has been Starship Troopers. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.